Leonardo DiCaprio, the name that defines a generation, the face that became the symbol of Hollywood, allure, the talent whose performances have captivated millions. But what if behind the charisma, the fame and the iconic roles lies a story of struggle, sacrifice, and emotional turmoil that the public rarely sees, because this is not just a tale of stardom. This is a journey of resilience, of navigating pressure, of carrying invisible burdens while the world watches in awe. Born in Los Angeles, into a fractured family, his parents separated when he was very young, leaving him to navigate a childhood of instability and uncertainty. Those early years shaped a deep sensitivity within him, a heightened awareness of human emotion, and a constant drive to seek validation through performance and attention. Yet that same drive was fueled by fear, insecurity, and the need to carve out an identity separate from a chaotic environment. Discovering acting as a teenager became both a refuge and a purpose, a way to channel intense emotions and step into lives far beyond his own. He studied tirelessly, honed his craft, and took on small roles in television and film before his breakout in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, a role that showcased not just talent, but an extraordinary emotional depth, earning him critical acclaim and cementing the trajectory of a career that would become legendary. Yet success brought its own pressures, the expectations to maintain relevance, to continually evolve, to embody perfection in every role. And as he transitioned into mainstream stardom with Titanic, the world fell in love with him, not just for his talent, but for the persona he projected, a combination of charm, vulnerability, and star power that seemed effortless. While behind the scenes, he grappled with personal challenges, the emotional toll of fame, the constant scrutiny of every action and decision, and the sense that despite adoration, he could never truly escape public judgment, even as he continued to deliver iconic performances in films like The Revenant, which won him his first Academy Award. His personal life remained complex: relationships under public gaze, family dynamics, and the pressures of maintaining authenticity in an industry built on illusion created ongoing challenges. He became an environmental activist, dedicating significant energy to global causes. But even that noble pursuit added layers of responsibility and emotional strain, because it required constant engagement and public advocacy beyond acting. And through it all, there has been a silent struggle with time, pressure, and legacy, knowing that each role carries weight. Each project defines perception, and every public appearance must balance personal privacy with professional expectation. At 51, the reflection on his journey is heartbreaking, not because of failure, but because of the cumulative toll of decades spent in the spotlight, navigating internal struggles, emotional turbulence, and the demands of a world that expects perfection, while overlooking the personal sacrifices required to sustain it. And yet, despite all of this, he continues to evolve, to inspire, to create, and to leave a mark on the world beyond the screen, revealing a story that is both compelling and quietly tragic. A reminder that even the brightest stars carry shadows unseen by those who admire them. The passage of time in the life of someone who has spent decades under constant public scrutiny has a way of amplifying both achievements and struggles. It is not just the accolades that accumulate, but the emotional residue of a life lived at the highest level of visibility. Because when every choice is observed, every role analyzed, every relationship dissected, there is little room for ordinary mistakes and no space to process them in private. And for someone like him, who has devoted his life to inhabiting the emotional truth of characters, there is a duality that is often overlooked by audiences. The person they see on the red carpet, the charm, the smile. The presence is only a fraction of the life lived behind the camera. The long hours on set, the physical and emotional demands of roles that require complete immersion in experiences often traumatic or deeply complex. Each performance leaves an imprint not just on viewers, but on the actor himself. The process of becoming someone else in order to convey authenticity to millions requires an internal reckoning with aspects of humanity that are difficult to disengage from. And over decades, that accumulation becomes part of one's psychological landscape. A quiet tension between the public persona and the private individual, between the successes celebrated in headlines and the personal challenges that remain invisible. Because fame is a paradox. It provides opportunity, yet imposes restrictions. It amplifies voice, yet constrains freedom. It offers admiration, yet demands performance and navigating. That paradox requires a level of discipline and resilience few can understand, even as he reached the pinnacle of his career, with critical acclaim for roles in films like Inception, The Wolf of Wall Street, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He continued to confront the same inner pressures, the need to exceed expectations, the weight of public scrutiny, the burden of being a cultural icon whose every move is interpreted and evaluated through a global lens. And that scrutiny is not limited to professional achievements. It extends into personal life relationships with friends, family, and romantic partners are constantly observed, creating layers of emotional complexity that few outside the industry can fully comprehend. The desire for privacy clashes with public curiosity. The natural human need for solitude and reflection is at odds with the external perception of celebrity. And managing that tension requires constant negotiation, a vigilance that is exhausting yet invisible to the casual observer. Alongside these pressures are the physical demands of the profession. Years of performing stunts, action sequences, and emotionally draining scenes require maintaining health and energy under extreme conditions, all while managing the mental load of inhabiting multiple personas over decades. And even with immense resources, there is no shield from the intrinsic human experiences of doubt, fear, and vulnerability. The cumulative effect of these pressures is what makes the narrative of his life particularly poignant. It is a story of navigating success while carrying an invisible weight. The tragedy is not in failure or scandal, but in the relentless demand to embody excellence while remaining human. The stakes are amplified by the knowledge that audiences do not often see the struggle, only the end result, the polished performance, the awards, the recognition. And while he has channeled much of his energy into humanitarian work, environmental activism, and advocacy for global causes, these noble efforts carry additional emotional and logistical burdens, creating a layered existence where personal fulfillment, social responsibility, and professional excellence must coexist. And at 51, the reflection on all of this carries a weight that is quietly heartbreaking. The realization that every triumph was earned in the context of constant expectation, that every public smile masked intense preparation and personal cost, and that even as he continues to inspire millions, there is a private ledger of moments that were demanding, exhausting, and emotionally taxing. Yet it is precisely that resilience that defines him, a willingness to engage with complex material, to inhabit characters fully, to use his platform for causes beyond personal gain, and to persist in an industry that is unforgiving and ever-changing is a testament to both his strength and the subtle tragedy of a life lived in extraordinary circumstances. It is a life that illustrates the intersection of genius and pressure of passion and personal cost of living under the gaze of the world, while trying to remain authentic and grounded. And that is what makes his story so compelling. Not just the fame or the talent or the awards, but the quiet human truth of carrying decades of responsibility, expectation, and emotional depth, while continuing to create art that touches hearts around the world. A truth that reminds us that even those who seem to have it all face challenges invisible to the audience, challenges that shape them, that test their resilience, and that reveal the full scope of what it means to live as both a public figure and a human being in the constant negotiation between the demands of the world and the needs of the self. And in that space lies both the triumph and the heartbreaking reality of his journey, a journey defined by brilliance and burden, by inspiration and hidden struggle, by the unrelenting pursuit of mastery and the cost of being watched and admired by millions simultaneously. And it is in acknowledging this complexity that we come closest to understanding not just the man behind the roles, but the human experience that has quietly shaped every choice, every performance, every act of creativity that has left an indelible mark on both cinema and the collective imagination of a generation.